Ladies and gentlemen and wonderful people of the internet, welcome to this show where we have Abhinav Arora and myself. And in today's topic, we are going to be discussing why Instagram hates us. So, Abhinav,
Hola. Tell me.
you have been seeing recent success on Instagram as a creator. Why would you say Instagram hates us?
Instagram is a necessary evil in my life. For those of you who don't know, I recently hit the mark of 70,000 followers on Instagram. It's been a 2-year-long journey. In these 2 years, I've gotten connected to a lot of creators who rely on Instagram heavily for their business or livelihood. Okay, let's talk about myself. I have 70,000 followers. On my best days, I get 5% engagement.
Okay.
So on my best days, I get about 4,000 likes.
Right.
And on my best days, I get about 30%, 40% reach.
Okay.
So that's why the algorithm hates me, hates everyone. You know, it's always, it's like a slot machine. You know, you don't know what you're going to get. You throw out a post and then you pray to the algorithm gods that, give me 50%, please. You know,
Right.
and when it's 50%, you're just like, you're getting good dopamine, you're feeling good about your self-worth for the day. That's what social media has done to us, right?
Yeah.
So
It's interesting that even big creators, face the same problem.
Yeah, dude.
Because the algorithm keeps changing. So then they also, even if you have hacked one side of the algorithm, later it changes. Now you have to go a different path that's completely different from what you've been doing. Has this always been the case?
Actually, no. I think I first heard about Instagram in 2011 or 2012. I was still pretty active on Facebook back then.
Yeah.
But
School
then
days.
I also, saw my friend circle flocking to Instagram. We were active on Facebook and Instagram both. So yeah, that's when I first heard about Instagram, and I made my first account on Instagram in about in 2013, 2014 when I was in college.
I think back then, Instagram wasn't even a social media platform. It was like Facebook was
It
the
was a
OG.
photo sharing app.
Yeah.
That's what you
Facebook
mean?
was the social
Yeah.
media platform. Instagram was more where you just post pictures.
It had that brown
Yeah,
icon with the 3 colors.
Yeah, it looked like the Polaroid camera.
Yes. So it had DMs, right? There were no stories. There was just
I wasn't
photo
even
sharing.
there on it. I was more, I hopped on way later on.
I came in around 2014
Because I was never a photo guy.
But dude, in college, photos become a big thing
Yeah.
because of how the college meant
Yeah.
to be. You want to show off your trip to the beach. You want to show off your friend circle. You want to show
Dinner.
off. The outings and
Yeah.
everything. So Instagram happened to me in college, and I had about 150 followers, and I'll get a reach of 150 followers. There was no way to track it because I didn't have a business account. I had a personal account, but I would get reach of all of these guys. And back then, engagement would be 30%. Today, the reach is 30%. Eventually, I grew to 500ish followers, but then I used to get all of those guys. Late 2015 is when Instagram opened up to ads. This similar thing happened with Facebook as well. Facebook first reached, I think, 1 million users. Then they opened up to ads. Instagram opened up to ads sometime in 2015.
This was before Facebook took up Instagram.
I think that acquisition happened in 2012.
Right.
But in 2015, Instagram opened to Facebook ads. Like when you run Facebook ads, you also had an option to run it to Instagram now.
Right.
In 2016, what happened is the chronological feed, the strict chronological feed. Chronological means if I've opened Instagram, I'll just see posts in a most recent fashion, chronological, right? So that went away. Instagram switched to an algorithmic feed, and that makes sense because you want to show ads, you want to put a lot of things in there. You want to control what users see. So Instagram moved to an algorithmic feed, and that is the day. Dude, the creator economy is new, but there have been artists and painters and designers and performance poets and dancers and so many people who earned their bread on Instagram. You can call them the creative class. The creative class was the biggest word of mouth proponents of Instagram because they found a livelihood. They found the platform for themselves.
Right.
And 2016 was the period where their reach started throttling down, and the brands starting entering the space. The brands started playing and leveraging the platform.
Competition
to themselves.
started to kick in between not just your creative work, but also
Yes.
competition with brands,
Yes.
people who have huge pockets, not
Yes.
just talent.
and who
things.
can create content at scale. I mean,
Right.
they
Oh,
were
yeah.
always there,
Yeah.
but now they had the
They
leverage to
found the
use
money.
money.
Yep.
Moving a little further into it, Instagram got acquired in 2012. The founders stayed with the app. The founders stayed with
Which is a good
Instagram,
sign.
which is a good sign because as long as the founders are there, their vision is there. They're the ones controlling the product. They like what's happening. They like the
They have
environment
a
is very
say in
conducive.
where the thing is going.
In 2018, both the founders quit.
Okay.
And in 2018, a lot of changes again came in. I think that's when the Snap copy happened, or right before that Snap copy stories
Right.
happened. So when founders quit, you can watch a few interviews, or you can read a few interviews of these guys. They took very diplomatic positions.
Okay.
They were like, okay, we quit because of so and so reasons. Or the real story doesn't make it out.
Right.
But that's what happened. You can see a range of changes. After that, when Facebook took full control,
Even the
Facebook always had
platform
control.
changed.
Yes.
From being just a photo sharing app,
yes.
it became a.
Dude, right now I don't use Facebook. I am all on Instagram.
Yeah, nobody uses Facebook anymore.
So I think all these algorithmic changes are a reminder of the fact that I don't own my audience, or it's a bad word to say own your audience, but I don't have full engagement control. I don't.
Yeah, you don't-
I don't
yeah.
own the relationship with my audience.
It's still that slot machine. You don't
Yeah,
know
it's
exactly.
it's Instagram that owns the audience, and I always I go and seek permission from Instagram algorithm lords. What do you want? What kind of content do you want me to create so that I can reach my audience that has already subscribed to me? Please
Yeah.
tell me, how do I do that? So that is the problem, and that's a feeling of powerlessness that every creator hates. And we don't have an alternative.
I'm pretty sure Instagram wasn't evil in coming up with an algorithmic approach. I think the shift from chronological to algorithmic meant, like, if it's chronological, even if someone posts a shitty post, just because he posted it now, if someone's on at that time, they would see it. But with algorithm, what they were like, the one that most people want to see is what we will show. The problem happened when what most people wanted to see was not exactly what they really was supposed to or wanted to see. Right? But I like this point that you brought up where you said owning your audience, because as when I was running, the community management aspect, I realized this entire idea of community. And
What's the community management aspect you were running?
like we were on Discord. We
Okay.
were trying to manage the Discord server. Like we were transitioning even as a brand from being just creators, like the 3 creators and their audience, to building a full-fledged community.
You're talking about Avalon's Discord.
Avalon's
server.
Discord. And that idea of a community, so that I want to bring out the difference between a community and an audience.
Okay.
Like so far, when you say Instagram, I still consider that an audience. Even though Facebook, Instagram, they're all labeling their platforms as to reach out to the community, connect different people of the world. I don't think they're doing it that well.
Okay.
Like even if it's a YouTube, there's a community tab, but I don't buy into it. I feel like it's a video sharing platform where you have an element of community maybe.
Dude, the fun thing about YouTube is I can subscribe to whoever I like. My home feed will only be curated by
Exactly.
all the junk that YouTube tricked me into watching, and then
Exactly.
it keeps throwing junk on my home feed, and I keep watching that junk. Whatever I've subscribed to is in probably the 3rd or 4th column.
And just having like one aspect of like and comments, like the YouTube community likes and comments, that's there even on any other place. So what is the difference between an audience and community is very important.
What
and
is
I
it?
start with the definition of a community.
You spoke about Discord. How does Discord come into this play?
So Discord started off where a lot of gamers came in. They started playing around with it. It was a very good tool for them to stream their games, to interact with the other participants when they were playing a multiplayer game. But we in Avalon had a lot of gamers within us, and we were exploring ideas like Facebook, we were exploring Telegram, Instagram.
Facebook groups, you mean?
Yeah, Facebook groups, all of that. But we were never happy with those solutions. Like Telegram wasn't doing it, Facebook groups wasn't doing it. So then, because we had a lot of gamers within the team, they were like, there's this thing called Discord. Why don't we try that? We started, and that around the same time that fortunately or unfortunately, obviously unfortunately, the pandemic hit. But fortunately for us, we were riding the wave where Discord also became transitioned from a gaming platform to a community platform.
Right.
the definition of what is a community, like we've been throwing the word community, social media platforms have been throwing the word community, but the key difference being that a community is a segment of people who form relationships, who build relationships based on a certain, say, interest, goal, or an experience, a shared interest, goal, experience.
So wait, what you're saying is, let's say I have an audience. Until the point these 70,000 followers start interacting amongst themselves. The icebreaker can be me, but they have to start interacting amongst themselves. And as long as they're not doing it, that as long as, they have a direct connection with me, but not amongst each other, it's not a community.
Exactly. See, you might be like, hey, so I have I post an Instagram post. My friend, one of my fans commented on it. Someone liked that. Someone replied to that comment. Haven't they formed a relationship there? No. That's not where you form a relationship. Now, a very simple example that I can give, say, it's dinner time right now, and we have, say, 3 flatmates. Okay? Try not to get too caught up into the example here, but try and understand the nuance here. Okay? I say have 250 rupees.
Okay.
My flatmate has 250 rupees and my third flatmate has 250 rupees. And we say want to order some fried chicken. Okay. Now one meal costs us, say, 250 rupees. What I can do is I can go to the fried chicken restaurant, give that 250 rupees and I can get the meal. My flatmates can do the same thing too. But say the restaurant has one 4th item in the menu, a combo meal. Pay 750 rupees and get the value of a 5-man meal.
Okay.
At a discounted rate. And that key aspect of a discounted rate is where a community thrives. The 3 of us came together in the hall and we're like, dude, I also want fried chicken. You also want fried chicken. You also want fried chicken. Why not put the money together so that we can combine and buy that combined combo rather than doing 3 individual transactions where we might get something. Like we get what we want, but here we're getting something at a huge discount. We maybe get something extra. Right, so that's a beautiful aspect of a community and a relationship where we first come with a trust-based relationship and we are like, hey, let's collaborate together.
Got it. Okay. So, I mean, you seem very experienced and feels like you've played with the realm of communities. And you spoke about Discord. Avalon having moved its audience to a Discord server, and something else happened there which wasn't happening on other social platforms. So let me really bridge the gap. There are a lot of creators that might be watching it, social media managers who are watching it, who are very active and doing all kind of Twitter campaigns, Instagram campaigns, and putting a lot of effort in that. What are you suggesting to these guys? Because clearly, as per your definition, these guys have an audience, they don't have a community. Is there any value in building a community for these guys and creators like me, or bridge the gap for me? How are communities related to Instagram algorithm not being too nice to us?
The biggest difference between say an Instagram versus say a Discord, a community platform, whereas a platform where you just interact with your audience, is the idea of compounding growth that happens. So, for example, I give out value in the form of my content. Now I get
Who are you?
I may be a creator, like the creators that you mentioned who are waiting here. So I put out some content which is value to the audience. And now what the audience will do, say in an Instagram, is they'll give a like or a comment, relationship over. I wouldn't even call that a relationship, I'll call that a transaction. I put out content, you give me a like.
They react.
Exactly. Whereas a community would be where I give out content, you look at that content, you build on top of my content. You build on top of my content. Now you're also giving me content, which I'll refuel into my flywheel.
Dude, this is, I think, the perfect example. This is what Reddit has been doing forever. This is what Quora has been doing forever. Because, dude, when you're searching for a question and you pop it up on Google or you write it on Google, you get Quora results.
Right.
Then what happens on Quora? Someone's asked the question.
Yeah.
But the discussion that follows in the answers is great. And it's even better on Reddit. Because in Reddit, in Quora, it's again question and answer are kind of bifurcated. In Reddit, it's just like threads.
Right. So that is the clear outliner between why you should simply not just have an audience where you're just putting out content, hoping for a like, putting out content, hoping for a comment. Rather than you put out content and you hope that people engage with it. You put out content that resonates with them. that is part of your shared experience, what you know. You try to foster relationships. There's a lot of giving. There's a lot of giving, and that is the beauty of it. The best relationships start with trust, and giving.
So let me summarize. What you're saying is, if you do end up building a community, find a community building platform for yourself, move your audience there, away from the Instagram algorithm. Be on Instagram because of the scale. You get to meet new people.
Perfect top of the funnel.
Yeah. And then funnel your audience down to a reservoir or a safe space, safe house that could be Discord perhaps or Telegram, and let the community interact there, and you be the icebreaker.
The platform is not very important. It depends on what kind of community you have. Like a professional community may prefer a Slack, whereas different communities
a lot
will
of
have different
developers
platforms.
prefer Slack.
Like I've still not found the best platform for a creator. That's not the point. The point being that top of the funnel aspect that you spoke about is exactly this. When I'm on YouTube, I see all kinds of content.
Right.
You will see all of that. They're all in the top of the funnel. Eventually, it filters down and it reaches those people who are there, who are your champions, who are these guys are the ones that I want to give my best for. Like it doesn't matter. Like I don't want to give my content out, throw it out there for some person just randomly scrolling it and be like, "Tu kya kiya hai?" Yeah, what is this nonsense? Because I was not making it for you. I'm making it for another guy, and that guy is finding value.
So basically, move your relationship to the next base. You might discover each other on Instagram, but move it to the next base. That could be WhatsApp, could be Telegram, could be whatever. Then, are you saying that once you've cracked the community, I'm sure it's a hard work, and since you've been a community manager, I assume it's a full-time job. You need a human to man it and facilitate interactions. That's what happens in all the offline communities. Do these communities grow? Or not? Or you said compounding growth. Do they grow faster? What really happens? Do the current users pull other people into the community?
I think that's beautiful because do
you have an example of any famous brand doing this?
I want to give the example that we had ourselves.
Okay.
And also say we brought out the Reddit topic too, how they did it. So, and we had very similar stories. So the same example will go for both. The transition happened where Avalon was in itself a very small group of people. In the Telegram days, we grew from say 2,000, 10,000 different groups. And at that time, say the community manager, the person who was heading or moving the community was Varun, right? And there was a lot of, I would say it's just a bunch of people sitting together. It's the tribe stage, a group of people with a shared interest. They were just talking. But as we started to see scale, when we went from say 10,000 to 50,000, you can't expect one man to stay there all day and interact with them. And most of the people there don't even know who or what that is. So I took up that stage. And my role was not to just give out cool ideas, or my role was more step back, facilitate an environment. Facilitate an environment, be the guy who is watching and making sure that people want to use that.
You're like the caretaker.
I was more like the housekeeper, the caretaker.
Yeah.
Right? So it's more like in a house, there's a reason why people come to the house because, hey, there's a cool guest. That is where the day started off. But as the party gets bigger, now the host has to take off more of a role of making sure everyone's
having fun. Yeah, come for the host, come for the invitation, but stay for the people who are there, stay for the conversations.
Yeah.
Super cool. And awesome, man. Any other case study that you want to talk about?
Yeah, the Reddit story was very similar too. Even as you scale, if you're looking to scale with your community, there are different stages that you have to take, which we will probably discuss later on too, on how you can scale things. So for example, Reddit pre-2015, I think, they were also a very small, tight-knit community. Everything was going really well. But as people, it's always a question of who is getting more from this relationship. Is it the creator or is it the audience? And the beautiful idea of a community comes in when everyone feels that what they are getting is more. The creator also feels he's getting more from the community. The audience also feels getting. It's the same like the fried chicken example. We all felt like we got more from it.
Better together.
Yeah, we're better together. And Reddit also had that where initially it started off that way. But as people felt like Reddit is taking more, they are getting more, they started to feel that distrust. And they felt like this is a huge company. It's a behemoth company. They're just making money out of us. We are just an audience. We are basically just eyeballs for them to rent out. Then Reddit had to transform the entire thing. So they came up with lots of events like road shows. They would come up with their moderators, sub-moderators, go to these people, give these moderators a white glove treatment, tell them that, hey, you guys are important. Like we did the same thing, right? We used to interact with our admins. We used to be like, you guys are very important. Like we wouldn't be here without you guys. So yeah, that's a fantastic case study.
For another day. We're going to dive deeper into this. For those of you who are tuning into the first time, which you probably are because it's the first episode ever, we're two Indians who are exploring and navigating the digital realms of the digital world that we've all embraced. Stay tuned for more episodes. For now, like, subscribe, and share if you haven't already. Take care, guys.